Hey, what's up, you guys? I want to talk to you guys about sexual harassment. And the first thing about sexual harassment is admitting that I have sexually harassed people. And I did this as a teenager. And the reason why I did this as a teenager is because I was stuck in a perception. I was stuck in a mentality. I was stuck in a way of thinking. And because I was stuck in this way of thinking, sexual harassment was my outlet of expression. It was a behavior that emerged from this way of thinking and immaturity. So I want to share to you guys my journey that I went through and how I basically brainwashed myself to thinking that those behaviors are appropriate. So you guys can realize that these behaviors are not acceptable. And I'm saying this, and it took some, I remember reflecting on all these behaviors and actions and decisions that I've made when I was a teenager with this particular mentality. I remember that, and you know, there's shame associated, there's guilt associated to it. There is a feeling of not wanting to be here because I have made these decisions. And that is internal work on myself that I have to work on, that I have to cleanse, that I have to heal, right? So I'm going to share a little bit of my story as quickly as I can so you guys can get the main points across as fast as you can. I was in 8th grade and I had crushes on girls, and these crushes were based on animes that I would watch, videos that I would watch, and it created this sense of romanticism for girls. And I romanticized, I fantasized about girls, and you know, I wanted to, I would start making moves on girls and all this stuff. Now, there was no sexual harassment here, but I started making moves on girls, right? And I would make these moves and I would basically get rejected, right? Or I got rejected. They just didn't want to be a part of it. Whatever you want to say, I just got rejected, right? And because of this, from the time of 8th grade, from the time of high school, it made me think to myself, oh my gosh, I need to learn something else. Like this depression, this emotional wreck of like girls not liking me in high school. Like I had to figure out another way of resolving this. And that made me go online to try to resolve this. So I'm watching videos, I'm watching this YouTube video, I'm watching this YouTube video, and it's showing me a new way of thinking. It's showing me a new mentality. It's getting me out of this victim mindset of like, you can't get girls, and it's showing me, hey, look, I have results, I can get girls. Now, looking at these videos now, a lot of the images are almost glamorized. It's telling you this, it's giving you this image, and it's the intent of this image is to manipulate and to tell you that if you do this, this, and this, you can get this, but the intent is not to best serve you. The intent is to almost glamorize the ego and to say and to guise themselves, to disguise themselves as trying to help you. Like, that was the intent of the video. So I'm being exposed to these subtle manipulations as a teenager, and I'm believing in it. I'm like, oh my gosh, this is the way to go. This is how I can get the girls. And you know, as I started watching these videos, I start subscribing to their vernacular. I start subscribing to their words of chode, bitch, pussy. I start just like subscribing to these words. So I'm using these words in my day-to-day interactions with people. Because I'm thinking to myself, like, the intent, right? I'm thinking to myself, like, okay, I'm going to use these words because it was me getting out of social conditioning. It was me getting out of, it was me becoming the alpha male. It was me becoming a person that can push and pull, you know what I mean? It was like this vernacular, this immature, inappropriate vernacular. When first looking at it, the underlying root cause of it was because I'm implementing a concept, you know? So from the external, it looks like, why are you acting like that? And internally, I'm implementing a concept that I have been, I thought was correct, that I thought was the way to go, right? And I feel like this is what guys in the community go through. They look at these concepts. They are students. They are smart. They absorb these concepts. And these concepts become inappropriately used. They become inappropriately implemented. You are a good student because you implemented it, yet it was inappropriately used, right? So that's where I was at for a long time. And there's moments where I remember I was in high school and there will be a girl sitting next to me, and I'm like, I would say, hey, you're a prostitute on her motorcycle or something like that. And, you know, girls would actually start laughing when I'm joking, you know, and you know, this was a pattern behavior that I thought was correct, because, you know, the girl is smiling, the girl is laughing. Like there was times where I motorboated a girl, and then she's told the teacher, and the teacher's like, man, you better stop sexually harassing. She's received enough sexual harassment. And I say this line like, well, she smiled, right? And, you know, this is what the videos are teaching me. It's basically teaching me, if they're smiling, if they're happy, if they're positive, keep on going. And that's not the case. There are subtle intricacies and there's subtle social underlyings that we have to be aware of. And, you know, these videos were so simplified to the point where it was like, okay, if she's smiling, I can continue sexually advancing. There are so many women there are 3 women that I met, and it was almost like a complete mirror of who I was when I was a teenager. This guy goes up to her, and these girls start laughing hysterically. And then they speak to me after the guy leaves. The girls speak to me like, oh, that guy was just treating us like a piece of meat. I felt disrespected, and it's etc. And you recognize that laughing, that outer exterior of laughing was not how was more of an internal sign of nervousness. And I didn't know that. And that's not what the videos taught me. So I was almost miseducated. I was misguided. And the education system here doesn't teach about social skills. And this is something that I truly wanted to learn, right? And there's videos prescribing these ideas. And, you know, I'm, you know, yeah. And I don't want to come across as this person of like, oh, I'm so innocent here and there. Like, don't hurt me. But at the very end of the day, we're all innocent to some extent. Like, the amount of brainwashing that is going on within me as a teenager is insane, right? And I remember getting kicked out of malls, right? After 6 months, because it's just like the way that I would go up to people, it was all sexual. It was like, okay, the pickup community is prescribing this idea: you have to get laid, you have to get laid, you have to get laid, right? And it's also prescribing ideas that everything else is mainstream social conditioning and all this other stuff. So I'm thinking to myself, oh, I'm this guy that just got out of the Matrix. Okay, cool, I got out of the Matrix. So everybody else's social conditioning, I gotta get laid, right? So it's like you unplug yourself from appropriate responses. You literally unplug yourself from genuine feedback that is actually going to support you. You unplug yourself from that. And in the process, as you're intentfully trying to get laid, you say more sexual jokes than necessary. You say that it's just like it's like because it's like these guys are telling you to get laid, and then you're not getting laid, so you have like this deep frustration. And because of this deep frustration, you go to extremes to get out of this deep frustration. You overcompensate for that deep frustration, and those deep frustrations come out as sexual jokes or physically escalating at very inappropriate times and not navigating it in a way where you're very keen to how a person is feeling. And this is what is being bombarded in my brain. It got me into porn. It got me into watching porn videos consistently and constantly. And, you know, it made me subscribe to a mentality of like every girl is all about sex. Like, that's the thing. Like, my whole mentality of the world is like, does this person have sex with this person? How many lay counts does this person have? How many times does he get laid? Oh, okay, this person probably gets laid a lot. Like my whole way of evaluating the world was, how many times did this person get laid? And if they were promiscuous or anything like that. Like, that was my mentality. You know, and you know, this is important for me to say because it made me have friends that, you know, weren't really the best for me, because now, since I'm evaluating my friends based on how they get laid, I am subscribing to people that may have degenerate lifestyles, that have lifestyles that aren't actually like purposeful or serving or sharing or giving. These are the people that I'm surrounding myself around. So this is This is the embodiment of who I become because I'm so prioritizing getting laid, right? So I excuse myself from literally different mentalities, excuse myself from cleaner ideas, because this aspect of getting laid was pushed to an extremity. It was extreme, and it made me cult-like in a way. It was like this, like getting laid. It was almost like getting laid is my God. No one else I'm going to listen to. Okay, maybe I'm exaggerating that, but I'm exaggerating that. But it was pushed to an extremity that it was the main importance. So I was in this cycle of frustration and validation, frustration, validation, frustration, validation. It was a constant cycle. And what I had to do was expose myself to ideas. And it got to the point where I got really like for example, there would be times where I would put people on camera because they are a pretty girl, and I know if I ask them a self-development idea, it's like more safe in a way. Like I knew good ideas were more safe, and like I finally learned my little mistakes. I finally learned about these sexual harassment tendencies that I had, and confronting that aspect about myself, I believe is super important, because, you know, how can you heal something that we have suppressed and are unconscious about, right? How can we heal that? We can't. So that's why putting awareness in this area is very important. And you know, over the times, over the journey, I want to share to you guys that sex is not that important. It's not. And the idea is like subscribe to you like, okay, biology, evolution, and then it gives you evolutionary psychology and biology to make you feel like, okay, yeah, I should keep subscribing to the sex thing. That's what the pickup community does. It's like, hey, look, we're all biology, have sex. You know what I mean? It uses biology and evolution as a rationalization to have sex. That's what it does. And we have to stop doing that. We can't continue that behavior. It's like the way that we physically escalate on people, like we can't do that. Like that's not appropriate behavior. And the way that I got out of it was realizing sex was not that important, and it was actually draining my life more than anything else. What happens after you masturbate? What happens after you're in a state of frustration? You literally are weakening your body. You're vibrating at a lower frequency than usual, and that literally takes away from you physiologically, right? And then what happens is that you're in this process of like basically trying to get sex all the time as you're interacting with people. You're just going to be dealt with frustration and not recognizing that women are intelligent enough to pick up on that, to see that as a red flag, that you should like women are intelligent enough to pick up on that, right? And you're like if I was speaking to my younger self, like, oh, you think you're so cocky, like you think you're the only one that knows how the social thing works? You don't. Like that's what I would tell him. That's what I would tell this child of mine when I was a teenager. That's what I would tell him. Like, you don't. Most people know what you're doing, so that's why they are avoiding you. That's why they don't want to talk to you, right? Because you are so stuck in this mindset. But I'm gracious of you because you didn't know. No one told you. You would have wanted to know, but you didn't know. And there was almost no other way out there. So that's what I want to share to people that are in the community. To get out, to yes, develop yourselves and grow yourselves, but to get out of this mentality of wanting sex. Because you are literally put into this state of desire, this state of, I need this, I want this, I need this. And as you start really integrating towards universal principles, you recognize there is no need for anything. Right? There is no need for anything. Now, they'll talk to you about this, like, oh, don't be needy, don't be this, right? You know, and I thought neediness was this like new term to belittle myself. Oh, I'm so needy, and it was like a way of belittling myself, right? So, to the men out there that just don't get it, to the men out there that, like, I'm trying to recognize is that see how my paradigm, my emotions manipulated me. It's like, okay, don't be needy, right? Don't be needy should be an idea that serves me, that should be that I should be like, okay, I'm not needy anymore, right? And that should benefit my emotional temple. But don't be needy was now an idea to belittle myself. And it was an idea to that it was embarrassing if I came across that way, right? And it was like I was dealing with energies and vibrations that I was completely unconscious about. And that's why I highly recommend Glenn Ackerman's work. I highly recommend energy awareness training, because if you're not acute on these vibrations of these emotions that you're dealing with, you will literally slowly hurt yourself and toxify yourself. And it shows me how ignorant I am as an individual. It truly does. So anyways, the energy of sex just makes you want and want and want. And it wants it no matter what, right? It makes you rigid. It makes you not care about what people think. Oh, I don't care about what that person thinks. And that's what you're trained. And you're trained that. And now as you're interacting with people, it's like you're borderline sexually harassing people because there's this concept inside of your head that says, I don't care about what people think. I don't care about what they think, right? So be careful with this sex energy here, because this sex energy could manipulate you, could tell you thoughts, can tell you ideas to make you do things that when you do become conscious about it, you recognize that those behaviors were not appropriate whatsoever and hurt people, legitimately hurt people, and could have traumatized people if I wasn't careful. So, to all the guys out there, and to my personal experience, be aware that this sex stuff that is being so glamorized and so like almost told to you like is the most important thing for life, re-examine that and re-evaluate that. And to see that it is not true whatsoever. and to see how you're being constantly manipulated by these ideas. This is my speech, this is my talk to end sexual harassment, because I used to be one of those perpetrators. Love you guys. Peace out, you guys. Gratitude. Bye-bye.